process of delving into the dark abyss is the keenest form of fascination. So today we are here with two keen individuals, Kavisha De Silva and Utsanda Ranasinghe, and I am Dithira De Silva. So Kavisha and Utsanda, how are you all feeling? Are you all excited to talk about H.P. Lovecraft?
Very much.
Very much.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the third episode of the Words the Bard podcast series, done by the English Literary Association of Royal College and the English Drama Society of Royal College. So, Kavisha and Utsanda, I think you all are the biggest fans of H.P. Lovecraft, of course. I mean, after me maybe. But yeah, so what do you know about it?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves with it. Maybe not myself so much, but I know Utsanda here is a huge fan of H.P. Lovecraft.
But he's just very humble, so he won't admit it.
Utsanda, go on.
I am quite a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, but I'm not the only one, and not us three. There are many fans of H.P. Lovecraft.
Very humble, Utsanda, we get it.
You know, Dithira and Utsanda, I think majority of the people don't really know what H.P. Lovecraft has done. For those of y'all who are watching who don't know, H.P. Lovecraft is like the founding father of horror and sci-fi. He created his own genre of, what was it called?
It was called cosmic horror.
Yeah, cosmic horror.
So Utsanda, what do you know about cosmic horror?
So it's essentially where there's otherworldly beings outside of human beings that come to harm, but it's mostly about what would humans react and do in situations where they come across these entities.
So maybe like aliens, or maybe...
Yeah.
Dithira,
Okay.
we know you're the alien here.
Actually, yeah, fair enough. I mean, I'm the one sitting separately.
Yeah.
I'm the alienated one. But okay, fair enough. I mean, if I'm not wrong, Aliens vs Predators, all those movies were also inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. So even after his death, he's still doing a great duty towards modern, not exactly literature, but modern creations.
Dithira, in a sense, that's really true. Because H.P. Lovecraft was one of the few people who actually engaged in this sort of genre back in the day. To talk about things like aliens or extraterrestrials, to say that there is a higher power in the world is something a lot of people just don't do. You know?
I mean, he knew he wasn't the main character. Even though he kind of was, because think about it, right? He achieved a lot within his life, but still he was very humble like Utsanda. Maybe Utsanda might be the next H.P. Lovecraft, but
let's not go that far. Because unfortunately, I'm also not sure myself, but from all the Shakespeare, Wordsworth, all the authors we've gone up to this point, H.P. Lovecraft is one of the most complex and most diverse people we've ever had.
Why do you think so, Kavish? What's the specific reason?
I mean, his work is something which normal people just don't do. You have people like Shakespeare, you have people like Wordsworth, who create great plays, who write great literature. But Lovecraft's work and his ideologies came from his in-depth human emotions. I know I'm sounding really advanced right now, but it's...
always advanced.
True. It's just that, unlike other people, he wasn't afraid to think about what goes beyond.
Exactly. I think the reason he integrated a lot of weird phenomenon and aliens and whatnot was because he wanted to prove that there is a bigger thing out there. There's a bigger concept, there's a bigger objective, maybe more than humans. So I think he always integrated that concept into his creations, and he thought he wasn't the main character. And maybe we think we are the main character sometimes, but
exactly.
Yeah, H.P. Lovecraft said everyone is a side character. There's something bigger out there.
I couldn't help laughing right now because I was almost all of us are fixated on our lives. We are the main character.
We're always centered.
Exactly. And
maybe not Utsanda. Utsanda's a very chill dude.
True, but Dithira, I feel Utsanda has a lot to say right now, but he's a bit nervous.
Yeah, Utsanda. So, could you tell us about his childhood?
So he has a very tragic childhood, of course. His father died at a very young age. His mother, went to a mental asylum. And it was very tragic, of course. And that integrated into his bleak worldview of life, and that really didn't fit into society that much. And originally, when his work was published, people really didn't like it. They were like distasteful by it. They were like disgusted by it. But that didn't stop him. He continued making more of his work.
You know, I can imagine that, right? Like, even now, when people talk about aliens or extraterrestrial beings, even we get skeptical, like,
of course,
really.
Yeah.
But back in the day, imagine how people felt when, like, H.P. Lovecraft started talking about aliens and, like,
Exactly.
monsters.
And I think, like Utsanda said, he had a very traumatic childhood. And like Kavisha said, he had a very different perspective on literature. And I mean, that's the reason he created all of these new genres like cosmic horror, like Utsanda talked about. But I think the core reason that this happened was because of his like traumatic childhood. He used that trauma and he used his creations to represent this trauma. So even though he went through like so much like trouble during his lifetime, even though he was alienated by his mother, even though he had like so many hurdles, right? He used his hurdles to get back up, and he made better creations. He integrated this trauma within these creations, and that made his creations much better, very unique. I don't think we'll ever come across someone like H.P. Lovecraft.
I mean,
But yeah.
Very much so.
yeah, guys, like, I agree with you, but at the exact same time, H.P. Lovecraft, like many of the other authors and bards, wasn't really like the perfect person. Like, I think because of how much he suffered in his past, like this is what I think.
Yeah.
He was very like conservative, to say the least.
Yeah.
Where he always questioned what happened on the outside, and he never tried to step outside the box in like his life. And I feel like majority of the time his books convey what he himself could do.
That's because I think he was also a very closeted person. He didn't have any support structures or anyone to talk to, hang around with. I mean, I have you, I have Mutsanda. It's like chill for me, but H.P. Lovecraft, totally different. Like no one really cared about him.
Yeah,
So
most of his life he lived in isolation.
yeah.
It was only him that.
And if I'm not wrong, he's actually a self-taught writer. He didn't have any education after the age of 15. So that's incredible, man. Like he didn't have anyone to talk to, no one to teach him. He learned stuff by himself, and he used his own experiences, his own trauma, and like he helped us enjoy them and like his creations in a sense, right? And he really shaped the world and literature in a very weird but interesting way.
You know, like as a 15-year-old thinking about like, Lovecraft's life, I would have just given up right away.
Exactly. But he honestly like has a lot of interesting books like The Call of the Cthulhu.
Call of Cthulhu, In the Mountain of Madness. Those are like his most famous works.
Once again, like these books, like they explore the concepts we talked about of like, other worldly beings and confusion.
I mean, literature isn't something which pulls me to a large extent, but Lovecraft's work or like his creativeness in developing characters is something I really like. I mean, the overall idea that he talks about aliens, that he says that there are beings in this world who make humans look like the side character, are like very extremely creative ideas, I would say, which like no one, even now, I don't think would have thought of.
Exactly. He was always ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And I think something ironic about his creations were that he talked about like the deterioration of like physical things and the mentality of certain characters, but then again his work never expired. His work still exists even after his death, and it was more popularized after his death, like you said. So a bit ironic to me. It goes against his own concept, but
I mean, here's the thing, like Lovecraft, like from a very like after he started writing, he was a very depressed person throughout his entire life. Like there was nothing.
His mentality almost deteriorated.
Exactly. But for him to write, for him to like continue writing with like that sort of mentality is something I think is really amazing. And I think majority of his work really, I feel, represents that.
Yeah. And even though we like talked about how he was sad and all, it was, I think he used it, like he used his trauma as a form of escapism, like literature as a form of escapism. So a lot to learn from H.P. Lovecraft. A lot of stuff we can integrate into our lives. So Utsan?
And as well as like many writers have like their own anxieties and fears, but Lovecraft used them to his great benefit. But especially one of the most like greatest fears and probably the most strongest fears of mankind is fear of the unknown. Like, what if there like an intergalactic cosmic being living among us? And how would us humans react to those situations?
So no matter what the unknown was, H.P. Lovecraft, at the end of the day, as a bard, as a literary figure, I think he succeeded, and I think he's a great role model to everyone here. So I think with that, I want to go watch a movie about the
I'm gonna question you. Okay, Lovecraft's life was very inspiration to a lot of people, but I don't think anyone watching should take him as an example because he's someone who went through a lot of went through a lot of tragedies in general, and we should always try to learn from these tragedies. Don't you agree?
Yes. I mean, there are paths we can take, there are paths we should not take, obviously, just analyze his life and get the things you can integrate. But honestly, I feel like for what he went through, he did a great job. He served like his duty as a literary figure, like I said. But now, Kavisha, please, I want to go watch this movie.
Okay.
So with that, let's wrap it up. Stay tuned for the 4th episode of the Birds of the Bard. This is
Kavisha De Silva.
Utsan Ranasinghe.
and I am Mithra De Silva, signing off.